how to write better paragraphs. That is today's lesson. Using simple, compound and complex sentences and additional clauses and phrases can make our paragraphs look more professional. And that is what we'll be looking at today. Let's start off by showing you a couple of paragraphs and explaining what it's all about. A paragraph is a collection of sentences which are generally related to one topic. Between 3 and 5 sentences is the usual amount of sentences in a paragraph, but they can have less or more. They work best with a mixture of sentence types. Now just look what happens when I move on to the second paragraph here. Notice how we're talking about the sentences. A mixture of simple sentences, compound sentences and complex sentences work well in paragraphs, but all three don't have to appear together. The main aim is to avoid choppy sounding English, so sentences rich with clauses and phrases will do this. So what do we mean by a simple sentence? Simple sentence, that's one complete thought which includes a subject and a verb. For example, there is a lot of work for the construction workers to do. Okay? We're going to be joining all these together. Compound sentence, that is subject and verb plus subject and verb. At least 2 independent clauses. They have a deadline to meet, so time is an important factor here. Complex sentences, subject and verb plus subject and verb, dependent clause and independent clause. If they fail to meet their deadline, they will miss out on their bonus. So that's 3 different types of sentences we'll be looking at today along with phrases, and let's see what happens when we join all these together in a paragraph. There is still a lot of work for the construction workers to do. They have an important deadline to meet, so time is a factor here. If they fail to meet this deadline, they will miss out on their bonus. So we saw a simple sentence, a compound sentence and a complex sentence all together in one paragraph. And this happens a lot. Now let's try something different here. I enjoyed my trip to Fairhaven and St Anne's. Despite being close to Blackpool, they are quiet towns, offering a totally different experience for holidaymakers. Okay, now there we saw a prepositional phrase and a reduced adjective clause. Despite being close to Blackpool, they are quiet towns, offering a totally different experience for holidaymakers. So despite being close to Blackpool is the prepositional phrase, and offering is replacing which offers. Okay, it is a reduced adjective clause. More about that as the lesson progresses. Okay, so using simple sentences throughout this time. I enjoyed my trip to Fairhaven and St Anne's. Despite being close to Blackpool, they are quiet and tranquil towns. Both offer a totally different experience for the holidaymakers. A lot of people don't like those busy holiday resorts and prefer somewhere quieter. Simple sentences again. I enjoyed my trip to Fairhaven and St Anne's. Despite being close to Blackpool, these towns are famous for being quiet and tranquil. This offers a totally different experience for holidaymakers to enjoy. So there isn't a golden rule here. about which sentence you should use. Both offer a totally different experience for the holidaymakers. A lot of people don't like those busy holiday resorts and prefer somewhere quieter. What about changing all that to this? They offer a totally different experience for holiday makers to enjoy. It's a fine balance. You don't want to be too choppy and you don't want to be too wordy either. You just want to get a fine balance. So what is a prepositional phrase anyway? Okay, well, like this here, unlike Blackpool, St Anne's is quiet. We still enjoyed our day out, despite the rain. With problems and worries aplenty, we were deeply troubled. And of course you could put the prepositional phrase there at the end of the sentence. It didn't have to start with the phrase. So what about an adjective clause? Blackpool, which is Britain's most popular holiday destination, is located in the northwest of England. It normally attracts millions of visitors each year, but this year has been very different due to the pandemic. And which is Britain's most popular holiday destination is the adjective clause describing Blackpool. A reduced adjective clause: Blackpool, Britain's most popular holiday destination, is located in the northwest of England. This bustling seaside resort normally attracts millions of visitors each year, but this year has been very different due to the pandemic. And the reduced clause, Britain's most popular holiday destination, we've dropped which is. Okay, we've dropped which is, which makes it a reduced clause. Using conjunctive adverbs in compound sentences. Okay, we have been advised to avoid public transport. Subsequently, the famous Blackpool trams are currently not running. It is hoped they will return before the illumination season in the autumn. For Blackpool, without the illuminated trams, just wouldn't be the same. And a lesson about all these things at the end of the lesson. Now, popular subordinating conjunctions in complex sentences, by the way, are these words: before, when, if, as, until, once. When you're looking at long sentences and you see these words, chances are it is a complex sentence. But a lesson about complex sentences, compound sentences, and conjunctive adverbs, links are coming up at the end of the video. Compound sentence: a minimum of 2 independent clauses with a coordinating conjunction. And the coordinating conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. I went to the beach and Amy went to the park. Ray had already visited the piers, so he was keen on seeing something new. So these are compound sentence examples. Complex sentence: independent clause plus dependent clause with subordinating conjunction: as, before, if, when, etc. There's a lot of them, okay, a lot of them. When the weather improved, we went out. We went out when the weather improved. And you notice there I have put the independent clause, I've written that in capital letters so it stands out. A lesson all about that, the link will appear at the end of the video. Prepositional phrases: despite the torrential rain and strong wind, we still went out. With a positive attitude, we saw it through till the bitter end. So So that's what we mean about prepositional phrases, and they can of course appear at the end of the sentence in a lot of cases. What about an adjective clause? Well, they act as an adjective to the noun, giving additional information without opening a new sentence. And you notice there was a reduced adjective clause which give additional information. Okay, I reduced that. So, adjective clause, Blackpool, which is Britain's busiest holiday resort, attracts millions of people each year. Okay, so the reduced adjective clause, Blackpool, Britain's busiest holiday resort, attracts millions of visitors each year. We drop which is. Okay, Ray used a clip that fits the seaside theme for this lesson. We can change that. Ray used a clip fitting the seaside theme for this lesson. Additional information with phrases. It is a nice place to visit, especially in the warmer weather. After all, our health is more important than our holiday. Simple sentences can be long and interesting, as they can have many phrases within them and complements. A simple sentence can be longer than a compound sentence and a complex sentence combined. Using semicolons in compound sentences. By jings, it's lousy weather, isn't it? Look at that sea. Tim is American. I am British. He is talkative. I am quiet. How we ever became best friends is a mystery to everyone, including me. Now that there is a paragraph, yeah? And the semicolons are replacing coordinating conjunctions. And that's something else you can do. Now we can also use semicolons here in a paragraph. This is what we did yesterday. We went swimming. We ate dinner. And we went to bed, but not together. So you see they're little sentences, and we've grouped them all together using semicolons. My family and I had planned a trip to Blackpool this summer, but we changed our minds due to the pandemic. We may go there next year if the risk of catching the virus is significantly reduced. After all, our health is more important than our holiday. So what have we done there? We've got a compound, a complex, and a simple sentence. And notice how that blends in nicely for a paragraph. Compound sentence. My family had planned on going to Blackpool this summer, but we changed our minds due to the pandemic. As simple sentences, they would be, my family and I had planned on going to Blackpool this summer, we changed our minds due to the pandemic. You see, that's a bit choppy, so why not join them together? So this is what we're trying to do here, you see, we're trying to avoid choppy sounding English. My family and I were planning a trip to Blackpool this summer, but we changed our minds due to the pandemic. We may go there next year when the risk of catching the virus will be significantly reduced. Our health is more important than our holiday after all. Notice there with after all, the variable phrase, at the end of the sentence we didn't have to separate it with commas, only when the sentence began with after all. just makes your sentence a bit more interesting, you see. So, complex sentence. We may go there next year when the risk of catching the virus will be significantly reduced. Or we could, with this one here, we could go with the conditional if. If the risk of catching the virus is significantly reduced, we may go there next year. So you can choose between when or if with that sentence. So they all gel together nicely as a paragraph. A walk by the sea can be invigorating. Breathing in that fresh air certainly beats breathing in toxic exhaust fumes in cities. A sea walk is less of a chore and more of a pleasure, especially on those warm summer days. Now here we had 3 simple sentences making up the paragraph. Okay, we had a phrase at the end of the last sentence to make it a bit more interesting. But we can reword that without the comma there. A walk by the sea can be really invigorating. Breathing in that fresh air certainly beats breathing in the exhaust fumes in polluted cities. A sea walk on a warm summer's day is also a joy to behold. So we've changed some of the words there. We've still used simple sentences throughout, and that paragraph is perfectly okay. You can do that, okay? As long as it doesn't sound choppy. Now let's try a simple, complex and compound sentence structure here. Looking at the sky can be very interesting. When clouds appear, we can often look at them and let our imagination run riot. They are just clouds to some, but to many of us, they can be fascinating and thought-provoking paintings on a majestic blue background. Let's try 2 complex sentences and 1 compound sentence this time. Looking at the sky can be interesting if you are stuck for something to do. When clouds appear, we can often look at them and let our imagination run riot. They are just clouds to some, but to many of us, they can become fascinating paintings of animals, people and buildings. I would argue that the first example was better. Now here the last sentence is a complex sentence with 3 clauses, okay? It looks like we may be seeing rain later. The clouds aren't painting a pretty picture and look very threatening. It may be an idea to pack your raincoats and umbrellas if you're planning on a walk, as there is nothing worse than getting soaked. You see, a complex sentence can have 3 clauses. Any more than that, it's getting, a bit wordy. And of course, paragraphs can be short. There are always things we can do when the weather's unpleasant. We can do housework, study, cook, or even watch television. I visited Central Pier for the first time in 4 months yesterday. It was really good to see it again. Central Pier, which looks out on the Irish Sea, has lots of attractions, including fun rides for the adults and children alike. There are also plenty of food and drink outlets there. Visitors can enjoy all of these tasty delights: fish and chips, ice cream, candy floss, candy apples and refreshing soda. I visited Central Pier yesterday. I hadn't been there in 4 months, so it was really good to see it again. Central Pier, which looks out on the Irish Sea, has lots of attractions. It has fun rides for the adults and for the children alike. There are also plenty of food and drink outlets. Visitors can enjoy all of the following: fish and chips, ice cream, candy floss, candy apples and refreshing soda. So that was an example of one paragraph following another paragraph. Okay? A short paragraph followed by a more detailed one. Paragraph using a compound and a complex sentence this time. We may go for a paddle today, for it has been such a long time since we did that. It's a very pleasant experience, providing the sea is warm and the sun is bright. And you may notice that there is a phrase at the end there. So let's try and rewrite that. We may go for a paddle today. It has been such a long time since we did that. Providing the sea is calm and the sun is bright, it can be a very pleasant experience. But if we do go for this paddle, we will remember to bring water and towels this time. We don't like walking around with sand covered feet. Yes, always remember, if you go for a paddle, bring water, bottles of water and towels, because there's nothing worse than walking around with sand blasted feet, I tell you. And that there, all these examples, by the way, all these paragraphs are written in the description box below, so you can look through them and you can study them and you can practice these techniques in your own writing. Okay? The main aim is to stop you writing choppy sounding English. Ha! There's nothing worse than choppy sounding English. And with compound, complex sentences and simple sentences using phrases, we can do that. I'll see you all in the next lesson. Bye for now.